The Formula One 2022 season is too hot, with many teams showing huge improvements compared to the previous season. Rivalries between teams are also high due to this competitiveness. A big controversy created after the Pirelli Tyre test at the end of the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix 2022. This came to light after questions about the transparency of the tyre test carried out by Ferrari by both McLaren and Alpine. What is the Pirelli Tyre test? Tires are an important component of a race car, and slight changes in the tires will affect the total result of a race. Then they must be tested many times under the on-track actual racing conditions to give optimum results. Therefore, Pirelli is given a maximum of 25 days by FIA to test its new specifications for the 2023 season. But they wish only to use 18 days for the normal testing program. It is not easy to carry out separate testing program with the 23 races packed racing calendar, and, on the other hand, it is costly to arrange a separate testing program. So, they are normally scheduled after Grand Prix, but with back-to-back races, many circuits cannot be used for the testing program. As a practice, Silverstone and Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya are the two circuits used for the tyre test. But both of these races are followed by another Grand Prix, and the testing tracks have been changed this time. FIA wishes to use Imola, Mugello, the Red Bull Ring, Hungaroring, and Monza this year as testing tracks. The scheduled 18 days will be fairly divided among all the 10 teams. But Haas already announced that they are not going to take part in the tyre test this year, and the other 9 teams will participate in the testing program. The first testing event was taken place in Imola on the 26th and 27th of April. Except Alpine, Red Bull Racing, and Ferrari, all other teams wish to use the same circuit for the tyre test. On the first day, AlphaTauri, Alfa Romeo, and Alpine took part, and for the second day, Alpine was swapped with Ferrari for the second day of the test, as both of the teams wished to use 2 separate tracks. What was the illegal thing that happened at the Ferrari garage? The problem was created on the second day of the tyre test when Ferrari's Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc participate in the tyre test. This complaint was related to the floor structure of the F175, where they have introduced changes to the floor when the car was driven by Charles Leclerc in the morning and Carlos Sainz in the afternoon. Alpine and McLaren were the main 2 rival teams who were very suspicious of Ferrari, and they assume that Ferrari has breached the rules by running different specifications in their car. According to the rules and regulations, tyre tests should be used purely for the tyre testing purpose, and no other parts of the car should be tested in parallel to this one. Rules are documented as follows. Cars at these tests must only use components of a specification that have been used in at least one race or TCC, testing of current cars, during the current championship year. These cars must fully comply with the provisions of the technical regulations. No test parts, component changes, or setup changes will be permitted which give any sort of information to the competitor that is unrelated to the tyre test. Mechanical setup changes, driver control changes, and component changes are permitted if agreed in advance with the tire supplier that they are necessary for the correct evaluation of the tires or to complete the tire test. It is prohibited to use new parts on the car, and teams are subjected to heavy fines if they do so. But the reports suggest that the Ferrari had to change the floor of the car due to the damages caused to it during the testing event. But official clarification was not made until the Miami Grand Prix by the FIA regarding that issue. Commenting about this floor change, McLaren CEO Zak Brown said, "I think what's important is having total trust in the FIA to police the sport, whether it's at a test or a race weekend," said Brown, quoted by motorsport.com. "But then, we also need total transparency. It's been suggested, or so I've heard, that maybe it was an older floor. Maybe that was the case. But I think what's important is, if that's the case, demonstrate that to the teams. Just give us confidence it's been policed appropriately in total transparency. We've had in the past, not long ago, an engine violation a few years back, and then there was a significant fine. We don't know how much, and we also don't know exactly what was done. I think in today's day and age, total transparency will help the sport understand what happened, why it happened, and what's been done about it," Brown continued. Alpine was also not satisfied about the explanation from FIA, and Laurent Rossi said, "I wouldn't point a finger because I don't know the details, so that wouldn't be fair. But at the end of the day, what we need is transparency. We need to know if there was something wrong or not, and if there is, what is the outcome. The most important is that we don't need a veil." Both Mercedes and Red Bull, who are the top teams to challenge Ferrari, also made some comments regarding this issue. as some kind of illegal testing clearly affects the race results in the future races, as they got opportunity to bring some upgrades to their F175 prior to their schedule. Mercedes' Toto Wolff commented, "The FIA just needs to be on top of these things. It can't be that any team runs a component in an environment it shouldn't be doing. And I guess if the FIA was not 100% on it, I'm sure they will be now." Red Bull team principal Christian Horner added, "What we certainly want to avoid is, because these cars are so immature, it's still very early in their development stage, that tire tests don't turn into aerodynamic or performance deployment tests. That's not the purpose of those tests." On the opening day of the Miami Grand Prix weekend, Ferrari was announced to be clear of any kind of breach of regulations during the tire test at Imola. It had taken several days to release an official statement regarding that issue, as they had to carry out a proper investigation. But FIA is confident that nothing illegal has happened during the test. The discussion had taken place between the FIA and the Maranello-based team in Miami to discuss the incident that happened in Imola. Ferrari was able to convince that nothing illegal had happened in Imola. According to their explanation, changes were made to the floor after the damages occurred in the morning during Leclerc's session. So a new floor was replaced for the evening session of Carlos Sainz. To comply with the rules, they assured that the replacement was a 100% transparent one, where they have used only older spec that had been run earlier this season. Now the situation is settled, and no fine was imposed on the Ferrari by FIA. They were able to grab second and third positions during the Miami Grand Prix, extending their lead in the Constructors' Championship.